Now I'll start adding packages to this project, right? So packages as in we'll be using a couple of functionalities in this framework, and this will be a very basic approach, right? So what I'll do, I'm gonna create a package over here in which I'll be maintaining all my test cases. So I'll name that package as test cases, right? Similarly, instead of test cases, you may notice that there are some organization which follows the naming convention with their organization name. Let's say mine is way2automation.com, so I'll say com.w2a.testcases, right? So this is another approach of designing a package, right? Similarly, I need to let's say create a package where I will be maintaining my utilities, right? I'll be writing common utilities, so I'll create a package called as utilities, right? Then I'll be adding something related to I'll create, let's say, a base package, right? Which will be the heart of my framework, right? So all the things will gonna derive from the base package, and then I'll gonna add a rough package as well. Maybe we'll be learning something in the rough package, like we'll be practicing something or doing a rough work. So that is what the rough package, will gonna contain, right? We'll be adding some listeners, right? What are listeners? I believe if you have already gone through the Selenium course, you must be familiar with what listeners are, right? We'll be talking about how to use them in our project. So I'm gonna create a package com.w2a.listeners over here. listeners. Let me correct the spelling. Okay, right. And similarly, in our resources, I'll be adding some packages where I'll be keeping my Excel sheet, right? I'll be maintaining my test data in Excel. Then I'll be creating a package where I'll be keeping my runners as in my suite XML files, right? Then maintaining logs in this project. I'll be uh, I'll be maintaining properties, right? And apart from this, I'll gonna add something called as executables, where we'll be keeping executables for Chrome driver or Gecko driver, IE driver server exe files. So all these exe files will be keeping it up over here, right? So this is a basic architecture, and then we will be adding some more packages as well, based on the examples that we'll be covering, right? So before that, we need to add some jar files that are the dependencies, right? So in our pom.xml, we'll be adding all the dependencies that are required. So dependencies, there's a common place, a common area where you can add all your dependencies. Let me increase the font size as well. And I'll go over here, change the size to 20. Right. And we'll be adding a dependency tag. So dependencies, and in this you'll be adding all your dependencies, right? So dependencies, you can get it from MVN repository. This is a centralized repository where you can get all the dependencies. Let's say you want to work on Selenium. So it's Selenium Java. We'll be using, for the time being, will not be using 3.31, which is the latest one, because Gecko driver has some issues with Firefox at the moment. So 2.53.1 is the very stable one, right? So all the functionalities that we're going to use in the latest 3.3.1, we'll see all the functionalities there in 2.531 as well, right? So we'll be using 2.531 for the timing, and I'll just copy it, and all the dependencies should be added to my Maven project over here, right? Apart from this, we need many other dependencies. So I'll do Control Shift F, and it will align my XML file over here, right? So I'll pick all major dependencies that are required in my project from one of this file, right? I'm gonna give you, these are the things that we will be using. So I'm adding it like initially, so that whenever we start writing these utilities, we need not to worry about the jar files that are required in our project, right? So like we'll be working on some reporting stuff, right? Reporting will be generating two major reports. One is the extent report that are very majorly used in the market because these are very interactive, right? And we can customize them as well. So extent report is the one that we'll be using for the reporting part. So I'm gonna add the dependency for extent report. We'll be using report ng as well. So report ng, these are the dependencies for report ng. So I'll add them in the project, right? Report ng is another report that we can customize and provide us a very interactive output, right? So we'll be working on log4j. We'll be sending out automated emails. So I'm gonna add dependencies for logs and for emails, right? Then what else we'll need? We will need a dependency to connect to the database. So I'll be using this MySQL connector, right? And then we'll be reading Excel. So we need the POI APIs, right? So I'll be working on POI stuff. So just copy this and use the dependencies over here, right? And then we would need a Surefire plugin for our test.ng XML file, right? This we have already seen in the test.ng lectures initially in the Selenium course. So I'm just gonna copy this plugin and paste it over here after the dependencies, right? So just save it and say Control Shift F. We're gonna align everything properly in this XML file, right? So before we start writing any code, I can also arrange like the log files over here, right? So I'll create a new file with the name application.log, right? And one more log we can generate with a file name selenium.log, right? So one will be the automated logs and one will be the user-defined logs, right? So user-defined logs will come in application log, and Selenium log will be your auto-generated logs. Then we can add couple of properties file over here where we'll be maintaining our locators. So like this will act like an object repository. So I'll say or.properties, and I'll gonna create a file called config.properties, right? So I'll tell you what all these things. If you are not familiar with this, just be with me for some time and then we'll start writing code to initiate these files, right? So Excel will gonna contain the test data file. I'll just gonna open up an Excel sheet where we'll be maintaining our test data, right? So I'll just save this file for the time being to the location. I'll say Alt Enter and I'll get the location of this package, and I'll store this file uh, with the name, let's say, test data. I'll be maintaining my test data in this Excel file. For the timing, I'll just close it. Right. If you refresh it, you're gonna see the file added over here. Right. So these are the things that we actually require for the initial setup.